Hello, everyone. Welcome to Neon Genesis EvanGLORIO, our watch/rewatch of the iconic 1995 sci-fi mecha anime classic Neon Genesis Evangelion. You know what? I forgot the pilgrimage to Mecca already, G.
You keep forgetting the name brand awareness. This is why my client keeps sending these angry faxes, to the Glory office.
I got it right 1 out of 4 times so far. We'll see if I can up my percentage. We'll see if I can up my percentage by the end of this. But
well, look, man. As long as the percentages don't drop to 0.000001%, by the end of this podcast,
I think those seem to work every time. So
I think it'll work out.
That gives me a lot.
Million to one chances work 9 times out of 10.
It's basic math.
That actually gives me a lot of leeway then, so I think we're good. Anyway, I'm your host, Jel, and we've got the usual crew assembled today. We've got Iro.
Still here. I've not yet been, I don't know. I've not yet evacuated Tokyo 3.
There you go. I need more clever intros here for the.
I was literally about to make a joke about Iro still workshopping his clever, personable intro, but
how just trying to hit all 3 podcasts to talking to me about that. I see.
Look, has it really been all 3 podcasts?
I think so. I don't know.
Look. Because I put some effort into my intro doesn't mean that I'm necessarily expecting everybody else to. I'm just commenting on it.
I have no freedom of speech considering I'm the guy that has named posts the Roundup or the Wrap Up or the Glorio Chat
or the First Looks
or First Look. Yes.
Yes, very very original.
Anyway, before I dive into my marketing strategies, let's move along to talk about our 3 episodes of this week. We're covering episodes 10 through 12, which kind of reaches the climax of what the creators considered the action arc, and some good stuff in here.
Yeah, definitely.
As far as we can just kind of dive right into it, kicking things off with episode 10, which is Magma Diver. This is kind of the last episode in the Asuka intro arc. So she kind of gets one more episode that's a bit more focused on her. And, it kicks off with Asuka being excited about going on the school trip.
Right. It's the kind of vibe of the episode, at least starting off, is kind of a summer vacation vibe. Like, people are just kind of chilling out. You have this dude just kind of air guitaring in Nerve HQ. Just like people are, they're chilling. They're relaxing. I guess they haven't, I guess the fate of humanity has not been threatened in the last week or so. So everybody is breathing ever so slightly easier today.
It's kind of Evangelion's take on the summer vacation episode.
No, but Asuka's not allowed to go on summer vacation.
Yes.
Because the Eva units are on standby.
Yes. She abruptly gets the news that her and Shinji and Rei cannot go on the school trip because they need to be there in case the angels attack again.
I mean, that tracks. I feel like, when you got 3 robots and only 3, applicable pilots, like, you don't have a lot of leeway. There are no vacations on this job.
Exactly.
Especially when I feel like angels are the angels in this show. Maybe I'm just beginning to get that feeling. Only 12 episodes in, but angels seem like they are prominently and purposely designed to show up at the worst possible moments. That seems to be their MO. So
yes. Although I guess this episode might be a bit of an exception, as we'll get into. But anyway, on top of the school trip being canceled, Misato has also seen Asuka and Shinji's report cards, so they might not have been going anywhere anyway.
So bad.
They've been so busy trying to save the world or whatever that maybe studying has not been a priority. But combining those 2 things together, we kind of get a 2-for-1 package deal where Asuka still gets to go diving like she wanted to, but it's got to be at the nerve pool, or and we move into a scene where they're kind of hanging out there, and of course Shinji is studying like a nerd at the pool while the girls are swimming.
He would,
because he's got a
on his giant laptop.
Yes,
learning about thermal expansion.
Yes.
Lots of focus on thermal expansion.
So yes, so this is kind of and this kind of comes up in the platinum notes, but we can kind of piece this together ourselves. There's a couple of like really like classic old school mecha anime type of things going on here.
Oh yeah,
I'm surprised last week's Next Time did not say next week Shinji Ikari dies in magma.
yeah.
But we get the setup for it here with Asuka's annoyed that Shinji is studying, of course, is because everything Shinji does annoys Asuka, and
I feel like, look, I will be echoing the sentiment this entire podcast, but I feel like I've written down at least 6 times in my notes across these 3 episodes either what is Asuka's problem or Jesus Christ, chill out, Asuka. So, like, I don't. What is her fucking like? I mean, here's the thing. Okay, like on a meta level, I get what her deal is, but like in show, like what is her fucking deal? Like she berates Shinji for being too passive. Then she berates him anytime he shows something resembling a spine. She berates him when he's competent. She berates him when he's incompetent. She berates him when he says something dumb. She berates him when he says something smart. Like what?
I mean, what
the fuck is her deal?
That basically boils down to he's the only one that's like not impressed with her or like doesn't pay any attention to her or like the level of attention that she wants. Because like,
I mean, like you say that, but I feel like we have been shown multiple times that there are characters that totally just fucking no-show Asuka's bullshit. Like, Misato doesn't play along, like Shinji's classmates clearly, don't buy into her bullshit, or at least they have, the standard anime antagonist relationship with her, like there are plenty of people who do not drink the Asuka Kool-Aid, but for some reason Shinji is the one who is just on the receiving end of whatever the fuck her major damage is.
I mean, there are probably reasons you could come up with why she wants Shinji's attention, whether it's him being the pilot or him being the only boy her age within striking distance. I don't know. But you kind of see that a little bit in this scene because like she's basically stop studying, you idiot, and watch me backflip into the pool.
Right, like while I shove my chest in your face.
Right, yes. Like she clearly wants Shinji's attention, but like I don't know, man. Just fucking please.
Well, if you recall a few episodes ago when we talked about the hedgehog's dilemma.
Yes, of Christ. I swear to God, this is the most fucking only blatant like pro wrestling story booking I've ever seen. Where like they, fucking if Neon Genesis Evangelion was a wrestling promotion, like Shinji is introduced as like the baby face that like you're supposed to want to root for, but like makes such a god awful first impression, like that the crowd immediately turns against him, and so like as a result they fucking resort to introducing a new heel character who is somehow so abrasive and genuinely unlikable that it forces the audience to somehow start to root for Shinji, because somehow that's what I'm doing now, because I'm just like, Christ, like fucking leave the poor boy alone. Like he's working through a lot right now.
That sounded like a very specific reference, but I don't want to get too much into pro wrestling on this podcast.
No. If Zig's not here, then we just leave it at that. So.
Yeah, it is funny that they make the big thermal expansion point here, but
right. She also doesn't ask him to like, hey, look at me diving, until she catches him like Algaline Ray.
Yes, that's
Yeah,
true
yeah,
too.
definitely got her jealous streak as well.
Yes.
One quick, brief aside I wanted to bring up that has nothing really to do with the plot or even our current conversation, but like when Asuka is complaining about like not going on the school trip, I love that Misato's just like, back in my day, we didn't have school trips,
Oh
with the
yes.
with subtext being we were too busy dying.
We'll get into that by episode 12, I'm sure.
I
Yes.
also did like here when we were watching G, and Misato brings up Asuka's bad grades, and you instantly said like, "Oh, concerning Asuka's character, I'm surprised she's not an anime super genius." And
Yes,
then immediately in the pool scene, they explain that Asuka's in fact an anime super genius.
Of course.
right.
Who was graduated university at age 14, but she
her
just
fucking
doesn't know the
excuse,
kanji.
yes, is just can't read the kanji apparently. So
That shit's complicated.
Which
I totally get it, but
which I mean, if you want to get technical, makes me wonder why she's still going to school. But I don't know. That's details,
I
right?
don't know.
Nothing else to do. I don't know. Kind of reminds me of
Something normal life.
yeah, probably. I mean, who the fuck else is she gonna hang out in fucking Tokyo 3? The place is a goddamn ghost town.
I don't know why that just
You
makes
can hang out with a dude. You can hang out with a dude fucking air guitaring in Nerve HQ.
Yeah,
like,
but that dude's alright.
That dude is clearly a fucking loser. So
anyway, yes,
might be my favorite of the Bridge Bunnies.
So of course Asuka is a super genius, and she helps Shinji studying by learning about thermal expansion.
yes,
which
they keep hammering home the point.
Yeah,
say thermal expansion a few more times.
Yes.
Gel?
Yes, thermal expansion is an important
thermal expansion.
Thermal expansion.
Yes,
Okay, now we can
important
move
point.
on.
Now that we've drilled that into her head, we can move along, and we find out that the next angel has been discovered before it attacks in a, I guess, embryonic state, buried somewhere in a whole lot of lava.
It looks like the fucking core of the planet, like just hanging out in the magma, just like it ain't no fucking thing.
I guess brings up the question of where exactly they come from, like where do they appear from? But
yes, because like look, I'm sure the show either explains it or never explains it. I don't really fucking care either way. But I'd always assumed that the angels followed a somewhat reliable logic of like interdimensional creatures, maybe a portal or some shit. But this one, like, right, it's like, and they usually come through or show up fully formed, right? Like they're usually like already good to go.
As far as I remember, they just appear.
Right, ready to fuck some shit up. But this one is just like, nah, son, I'm gonna chill out in the magma first. And
yeah,
I do like that they describe this one specifically as, oh no, if we don't stop this one, humanity is all doomed. As if humanity is not doomed every fucking time an angel shows up.
Yes. Yeah, I don't think they've appeared consistently, because like later on in 12, that one like just appears in space, right, and then drops down.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I mean, whatever. But yeah, so this one though, they have found, while it is still in its embryonic state, and they decide maybe now's the time to go on the offensive.
Hell yeah!
So they call an Order A-17 here to basically try and capture it, and if they can't capture it, the plan is to destroy it. And so Asuka's
business as usual.
Yes.
So
Asuka basically volunteers for this because she wants to show off and whatnot, as always, until of course she finds out that her Evangelion has to wear the Type D equipment, which is
all right. New toys.
New toys. Yes, I was gonna say, in case people are still out there arguing that Evangelion is not a mecha anime, here we go. New gear to sell new figurines.
I mean, did the kids really want to buy the Type D equipment though? Which is basically,
I don't think.
I'm plenty of people wanted to buy Fatsuit Asuka.
Right. I'm more commenting on. I don't think that like Evangelion, the show itself, actually ever intended to sell like Unit 2 with D-type equipment, but it more is a comment on just the conventions of the genre itself, where like
upgrades
upgrades are introduced because like it is visually the most natural way to show progression for a mech, and B, yes, just kind of those roots in selling toys. But yes,
it's
as
a mid-season upgrade for Unit 2.
But yes, as Eero commented, they are, as I wrote in my notes, they are truly committed to this Asuka fat suit bit in this episode.
It kind of reminded me of, because it's funny that that Unit 2 actually gets like a suit or whatever. With Asuka, they just blow her up into a balloon.
Yes.
It kind of, I mean, maybe this is just me. It kind of reminded me of like Willy Wonka with
oh yeah. Like, okay, yes, I see what you mean.
And Asuka being the spoiled brat, and
right.
Yeah, that tracks pretty well.
Yeah.
Asuka would do. If Asuka had gotten one of the golden tickets, I think she would have done horribly. In fact, I would be willing to go as far as claim that if the cast of Evangelion were to take a tour of Willy Wonka's chocolate factory, I would be willing to make the bold bet that Asuka would in fact be the first to be disqualified from the tour, because
I bet I'm willing to put down cash money that somebody's written this already.
I look forward to my Neon Genesis Evangelion cross Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory fanfic coming to where all fanfics are bought and stored soon.
Oh, that sounds very exciting. Yeah, I don't even think she would make it to the giant blueberry room. She probably would have fallen in the chocolate river or whatever the.
No, she would have been in Augustus Gloop, I think.
She would have been kicked out for assaulting an Oompa Loompa.
Yes, probably. Yes. That sounds about accurate.
Anyway.
So does that mean that then does that make Gendo the Grandpa Charlie to like Shinji Ikari, or what not Grandpa Charlie,
Grandpa
whatever,
Joe.
Grandpa Joe?
I think the metaphor is dead at that point, to be honest.
But then we get the scene where fucking like Gendo and Shinji get caught in the wind tunnel, but like Gendo probably just leaves Shinji to get fucking shredded to pieces by that wind tunnel. So
yeah, well that would track with his backup plan on this operation. As the kids get set up with Asuka in Unit 2 being the one actually carrying out the operation, but Shinji's there with Unit 1 as the backup. And we get a little bit of a bit here where they see planes flying over from the either the UN or the JSDF, I forget. And Asuka's like, "Oh, are they there to help us?" And Misato's like, "No, they're gonna just blow us all to hell if this goes wrong."
Right?
Yeah, that tracks.
Shinji's like, "Who would make such a stupid order?"
And it's like, "Your dad."
Oh, your dad.
Yes. So
then,
a very Gendo flex,
yes.
so to speak.
So classic Gendo Ikari there. But yeah. So with everybody set up, we get into the titular magma diving. Asuka jumps down into the magma, dives down to deeper than recommended depths there, of course, to keep things interesting.
And the magma is just hot red water. As we know, you can see through magma.
Of course.
I mean, this is just in the long legacy of Gainax shows treating inhuman environments as basically just really deep water, whether it is magma or the center of a black hole, it's basically just water.
Yup.
I mean, we know it's hot because Asuka keeps complaining about being all sweaty in her fat suit, right?
Yes, yes. Fucking, the fanfic writers are furiously typing away.
Yes.
With the material they have been given.
So they have Asuka dive down until she finally gets to the 8th angel here, which at this point is still in its embryo form. And after appearing to capture it, of course, it's not going to be that simple. And it starts to instantly evolve into its actual form.
Oh no!
So as far as the actual form goes, the Platinum Notes had an interesting point about what the angel was based on, which is this thing called I have no idea how to actually say this.
Hold on, like Animalcaris, right?
Yeah, Animalocaris or something like that, which
I know this because there's a Digimon based on this guy.
well, that's interesting.
That tracks with your reasoning.
Animalocarimon.
When did when would that Digimon have aired at that point?
Like what was that? Like 1999, 2000.
Okay, well here's what the platinum notes have to say here, which I thought was interesting. It mentions that the Eighth Angel was based on this Animalocaris, whatever, which was the largest carnivore of the Cambrian period, and it was the subject of, or it was in a NHK special called "Life: A Long Journey of 4 Billion Years," which aired in 1994. And at the time, in Japan, it was that particular creature was a hot topic. I don't know why, but whatever. So that would have been a reference, I guess, a very specific reference from that time period that a lot of people would have gotten, and I guess maybe that's how shortly thereafter, maybe that's how we ended up with a Digimon based on it.
Oh, one of those things. Okay, right. Yes, I'm googling it. Yes, one of those. Yes, the weird shrimp with the tendrils. Yes.
Yep. Yeah. So that's what this particular angel is based on.
It's one of those just weird things that's popular in Japan, like Seaton's Animal Chronicles or whatever. Like,
yeah, it sounds like it would be in that neighborhood of
just like highly specific subject matter that
weirdly ends up being weirdly resonant with the Japanese public.
Yes, like yes, like the classical track from the New World.
All right,
feel like that shows up all the time in certain anime and video games.
Shout out to Azura's Wrath.
Yes. Shout out to Azura's Wrath. Yes, that is
never a bad time to shout out to Azura's Wrath.
You know what? You're right. It's never a bad time to shout out Azura's Wrath. What a good video game, everybody.
Anyway,
so
how do we defeat the Animalocaris?
Yeah, so this thing starts attacking Asuka as they're trying to drag her back up to the surface. And of course, she dropped her knife at some point, so we had to have Shinji toss his knife down to her. That doesn't work either. But this leads to our classic old school mecha anime moment where they're like, basically, I know, thermal expansion!
Yes.
Right, thermal expansion.
Which, actually, I still don't really know how the physics works out on this, but they basically shove coolant in the thing and it makes it so they can stab it.
It makes the skin brittle so it can break, right? Something like that.
Yeah.
Because it gets super cooled.
I guess. Something like that. So Asuka's able to defeat the thing, and of course, before it dies, it rips her cables. But Shinji is able to rescue her somehow, which that didn't make sense to me either, because it still seemed like she was pretty deep in there.
I mean, I'm more. My thing is like, motherfucker jumped into lava. I thought we needed the D-type equipment to do in the first place.
Fine.
Yeah, but whatever.
Don't worry about it.
I guess maybe Unit 1 can handle being in the lava for a couple seconds, or however long it took. But anyway, day is saved. Angel is defeated once again. And we wrap things up with a celebratory trip to the hot springs, where Shinji gets another lesson on expansion, but
thermal expansion.
Had to get one more callback in there. But I guess the only other notable thing is we get a glimpse of Misato has a giant scar on her chest, a mysterious scar.
I do like the dialogue between Misato and Asuka here, where Asuka is like, you know everything about my past, right?
Yes.
And Misato basically says, yeah, but don't worry about it.
Right.
We're all friends here.
Right.
Or whatever.
An extremely rare moment of vulnerability for Asuka.
Yeah.
I think the only other time I could think of up to now would have been like when she was sleeping and Shinji tried to kiss her or whatever. But yes, further implication that she's got some kind of past thing going on. Really for both of them too, because like I said, the scar thing. Yeah, right. Everybody's got their past here, their baggage. So, yeah, not too much else to say on that one. That felt like kind of the last of like the really traditional like old mecha anime type of like monster of the week things. I guess maybe you could say that a bit about 11 and 12 too, but I feel like this maybe the tone is shifting a little bit, because a lot of Magma Diver with episode 10 is still kind of like funny and whatnot. But
I think 11 and 12 are still
I would push back against that a little bit. I do agree, and I think that there is a clear and obvious tonal shift with especially once you get to 12. I think,
yeah.
But like I think that overall, like you can still clearly tell that like these are following a very like these are still kind of owing. They owe their narrative development, their narrative arcs to a very like specific lineage of mecha anime that I think is still quite apparent even when the subject matter grows, more serious or introspective in nature.
Sure.
Like,
yeah.
Like, I certainly wouldn't say these episodes are like episode 4, for example. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah, I just think there is a bit of a different tone moving forward, even if maybe some of the plot formula is kind of
I don't know, man. Fucking episode 11 has...
11 is fun.
Has some moments.
Yeah. So,
speaking of episode 11.
Speaking of episode 11, yes. So we have episode 11, The Day Tokyo.
I want to note, this one was written by Yoji Enokido.
Oh,
that's
nice.
known for Fooly Cooly, Die Buster, Utena.
That's a good.
That is as we always say, free Enokido. So
free Enokido, free Tsuruba.
Yes.
Anyway,
because we to comment on him specifically, I think the understanding is he is still
working on Bungo Stray Dogs.
Right. Yeah. So he is with Bungo Stray Dogs. Yes, and it is Tsuromaki who is still chained up in Ano's basement.
Yup.
Okay.
Yes. So yes, The Day Tokyo 3 Stood Still, or the other title, In the Still Darkness. Also worth noting, I guess this episode was animated by Studio Ghibli.
Cool. Huh, that is interesting.
Sure. And
I mean, noted like buddies with Hideaki Anno. So
yes. And as the Platinum Notes point out quite a bit on this one, but kind of interesting. This is the episode this is an episode where Anno kind of goes in a lot on the mankind becoming too reliant on technology type of theme, which is probably fitting for the episode animated by Studio Ghibli, but something that he's also a common theme that he explores too. But yeah, we kind of kick things off with kind of more mundane daily life of the Nerve crew. Like,
you're right, they're doing laundry, and they do this joke twice in this episode, but when they pull out, like, Ritsuko pulls out her laundry, and it's just copies of the outfits she normally wears.
Yes, it's very good.
Or later, the dude's holding Misato's laundry, and it's just like 5 identical red jackets.
Yes, it's very good. It reminds me of the classic gag you sometimes see in Western cartoons, where like Shaggy from Scooby-Doo opens up his closet, and there are just like 12 identical green shirts or something.
And Daisuke having 30 suits.
Yeah. And while everybody's going about their business, interesting bit of conversation here where they explain that the Magi supercomputer in Nerve is basically running the government.
Yes, basically.
Yeah, it's 3, and so it takes 2 to decide anything, so truly it works off the tenets of democracy.
Yes. Right, just the idea that, hey, you know what? Supercomputers can run government way better than fucking shitty humans can, so let's just trust the AI to handle everything.
Yeah. Kind of setting us up for the real heavy-handed message of this episode here, I think. I mean, you could even tack in some of the, all those, 0.00001% calculations are coming from the Magi computer, and Masato always proves them wrong. So, kind of a bit of a... I feel like they lay it on pretty thick in this episode, though, as far as
right.
the man overusing technology theme or whatever. But yeah, I thought that was kind of an interesting point. Not like super relevant, but just kind of giving an idea of how, influential this computer is, which I think will come into play more later. But in between there, we get a glimpse of the new and improved Unit 0 after getting...
It's blue now.
Yep, after getting melted in Operation Yashima, was it? It is now been repainted blue. And we kind of get a little bit of a glimpse of Rei testing it, and we'll see she's ready to get back into action. later on in this episode. Kind of a lot of small, quick things happening here. We get an interesting scene where Shinji just decides to randomly call Gendo, and
he has to come to the parent-teacher conferences or whatever.
Yes.
Yeah, Shinji asks what I thought was basically the fucking dumbest question I've ever seen him ask in this show. Like, considering, like, Shinji should honestly know better.
Yeah,
like, considering
I'm sure he knew
the man his father is.
He's trying
like,
so hard.
I'm sure he knows better, but it was kind of, it's just like a sad scene because like.
Yeah, I
he's
guess.
just-
I mean, it's
like,
sad,
why are you
but
calling
also,
me about this shit?
Yeah,
Basically,
I mean,
you're wasting my time. I've left all this stuff to someone else. Leave me alone.
I mean, even the fact that I thought it was, and you know, I think this maybe is just to show the distance between them, but he they work together, and he ends up calling him from like a payphone, and he has to get like transferred and forwarded or whatever to, you know, even talk to him. But
right. I mean, but I feel like none of this is surprising considering like the obvious number of like lengths Gendo has gone to like distance himself from his son.
Yeah,
like
it's still kind of sad though. Like that.
I mean, didn't Misato wasn't Misato the one that attended his other parent-teacher conference or whatever that happened like earlier? So like, I feel like dude should already know what the score is.
Maybe the poor boy's got his confidence up a little bit and thought it would be okay, and now he just gets it slammed back down into the ground here.
Yeah, well, as Asuka would say, that's a real baka move. So
I'll leave the poor boy alone. Anyway, so that doesn't go well. Gendo, of course.
Yeah, the power cuts out right in the middle of the phone call.
Yes. Well, after he did make it clear that no, he wants nothing to do with it.
I do like it cuts out as he's saying, like, do not take further calls from Shinji, basically. It's like mid-sentence. It's like, whoa.
Yeah. So power cuts out rather mysteriously. And, you know...
I do love the quick gag where everyone assumes it must have been Ritsuko.
Yes,
she's like, it wasn't me.
It wasn't me. Yeah,
you know, this episode's got a lot of good quick gags.
There are.
Yeah, that's kind of why I say it. You know, especially with like what is maybe like the best and only joke we've had with Gendo so far is in this episode, which is why I argue that actually this anime, even if things start to get more serious, is still very much. Right. Kind of operating in a certain lane.
The jokes,
free Enokita.
There are jokes and they are good, but they're much more like low key. I think like they're kind of more subtle than like, you know. But
yes, so the power goes out.
Yeah,
the secondary power goes out, and the
tertiary power goes out,
which is probably a bad sign. But
and they say to divert all emergency power to the Magi and to Central Dogma.
Yes.
So, is this the first mention in your Central Dogma?
I believe so, because I wrote down in my notes that Central Dogma is a good name for anything.
Yes.
Like, you know, I would listen to an album called Central Dogma. I would play a video game called Central Dogma. You know,
drive a car called Central Dogma.
It's a good ass name. It's a good name for whatever it is.
Yes. Yep. So power's out everywhere except for the bare minimum computer functions there at Nerve. The kids have to break out their emergency instructions in their backpack.
Yes, the little pamphlets they keep in their bags.
And start trying to find their way back into the headquarters somehow, which ends up being a little more difficult than it probably should be. But
well, that's a lot because fucking Asuka continues to just display like all the traits that caused me to write down in my notes, Asuka, what is your fucking problem? Like,
right, like
we have this bit here where Asuka immediately
go ahead,
immediately volunteers to be the leader of this expedition to get back into Nerve HQ. But like Rei, being the creepy one, of course, already knows like what to do. But like Asuka just does not take...
Asuka's continuously like, good plan, glad I thought of it.
Yes, or good plan, Rei, let's do the exact opposite because you suggested it. Which is just like, for a fucking super genius, you sure are kind of a dumbass.
I was just thinking it was ridiculous they had so many vents to crawl through to get in. Like, you'd think they would have a...
Oh,
And you
that's
see how
entirely
fucking
cool.
big the geofront
Yeah,
is.
yeah, dude. Look at fucking Tokyo 3. That thing is a. I'm surprised they even knew how to get in. You know, you fucking ask me, hey, how do we break into our goddamn moving
Underground
modular
cavern.
underground city headquarters / final bastion of humanity? And I don't fucking know, dude.
Yeah. So anyway, while the kids are working their way back, we do get a glimpse of, conveniently, of course, the next angel appears. We get the ninth angel, and it looks something like
Yes,
a
yes.
giant
Big spider.
spider thing, even though it only has like 4 legs. And we'll see later it like drips acid out of one of its weird eye things.
Yes, this is just the acid crying angel, of course.
Yes.
What a natural archetype for one of these creatures to assume.
Yes, definitely tracks with all that. And okay, let's get to the good Gendo joke. We do see everybody. We do see everybody at the the nerve headquarters bridge, whatever you want to call it.
It's hot. The AC's off.
And what was it? Was it Masato and Ritsuko talking about how hot it is? But oh no, it was Ritsuko and Maya talking about.
Well, Masato also commenting on it, right? Because Misato's
trapped in an elevator with Kaji.
Yes,
right.
That is important. Masato ends up being trapped in the elevator for the entire episode.
Yes.
But yes, so Ritsuko and Maya are talking about, oh god, it's so hot, but look over there, the commander is completely unshaken, and we see him in his usual Gendo pose with his face, his chin leaning on his hands. But then it cuts down and shows. Rafutsuki's like, I forget what he says, like, man, it's hot or whatever, and it cuts down to show Gendo has his feet in a bucket of water.
Yes, it's very good
to keep cool.
It's the kind of dumbass visual gag that I expect from Gainax.
Yes, and I think the Platinum Notes actually confirms that this actually is the only Gendo joke in the entire series. So
really, that's interesting.
Enjoy it while it lasted. But
that's interesting. Not a single other gag with that character for the rest of the show.
Yeah.
That's
so as mentioned, they do find it pretty suspicious that their first, second, and third power sources all got cut, and which seems to indicate that it was some kind of sabotage.
Right. Yeah.
And they suspect it's another human, not the angels or the angel or whatever that has done this, which is kind of interesting, leading Gendo to mention to everybody that the real enemy of mankind, of course, is mankind.
Yes, which definitely
humans are the real monsters.
Yeah, it definitely leans into the vibe of what this show has been.
We are the Walking Dead.
Well, yes, I suppose yes. That is definitely the
angels,
the more blatant version of this.
The angels have 99.99% human DNA or whatever that we mentioned many episodes ago. But so yeah, with the angel attacking and no power. I guess I forgot to mention the following up on that, the Shinji's conversation while they were going through the ducts just randomly wondering why they're fighting God if the angels are supposed to be his messengers or whatever.
Shinji chooses now of all times in the middle of this cramped vent. That now is the perfect time to question the metaphysical nature and intent of the angels.
Yes.
And I'm just like, Shinji, could you not have picked, like, I don't know, a million of the other times that you were standing around moping to discuss
so much
instead of
we had so much downtime between some of these episodes. Everyone's doing laundry and everything. Probably would have been a good time, but
I do love the gag of Asuka opens a door and the angels just staring directly at them.
Yes,
she has to close the door. And then Shinji and Rei are just deadpan.
Yes.
Staring right at Asuka.
Yes, some great directing there. But yeah, with the angel appearing and dripping acid down at headquarters, or I don't know if it's doing that yet, but it will be eventually. They need to get the Evas deployed somehow. So Gendo leads the charge in getting the Nerve crew to manually prep the Evangelions, which
Hell yeah! This is
If I
great.
learned anything from 90s edutainment, it's that pulleys and ramps allow humans to do a lot of work.
Yes, this is a great sequence here where we just kind of get to watch like the whole crew getting together to like literally like
hoist the entry plugs.
Yes, by hand or like literally like fucking wind a crank to like get the diesel engine running to power the like Ava unit's like internal battery and all this shit. It's very
hydraulic
good.
Cables.
Yes,
I was
kind of leans into what I've spoken of in prior podcasts of just like I think what Ava does particularly well, like is kind of very much presenting and examining the human cost of mecha anime as a genre, like the human efforts that it requires, to quote myself from a few episodes back, it takes a village to raise a giant robot, and you definitely see that in play here, where like even Gendo himself is like winding the crank, like it's it's very good. It's a really fun.
I was definitely watching it this time around, thinking I think G's gonna like this part.
And that was a good guess because I did. Yes.
I have to. So I do want to bring up. I have to give some of this a little bit of side eye here because I feel like some of this is trying to rehabilitate Gendo or have us see him in a somewhat positive light. Like, yeah, he's a dick, but in the end, he really does believe in Shinji and the kids.
Oh no,
no. See, I don't think that's the case at all because like I think that Gendo is willing to work this hard specifically because Shinji isn't around.
Well,
like,
here's the thing. Like, so he starts everybody prepping the Evangelions, and he's jumping in there himself to get it done, and everybody's like, oh, but we don't even know where the kids are, and he's like, oh, they'll be here or whatever. And then like later on, Misato comments like something to the effect to Shinji of like, well, your dad believed in you or whatever. I forget exactly what she says. I mean, that's how I was interpreting it. And
I guess I see that more as like I don't know. I saw that more as Gendo kind of speaking generally to those kids will show up, and one of those kids is my worthless son. More than I actually secretly believe in Shinji.
I think we get more evidence of that in the next episode too. So maybe we'll put that thought on. Maybe we'll put that thought on hold for the moment. But I just wanted to bring that up so that we can revisit that.
I do want to bring up one bit that I'm interested to hear your thoughts on. Is that as the kids are walking through the tunnels, Asuka like tries to start shit with Rei and like accuses her of being Gendo's favorite. And Rei says that she's not, even though like we've demonstrably seen that Gendo and Rei kind of have a thing going.
Yes. So, I mean, based on what the show has presented to me up until this point, I mean, I guess that's the whole point, right? Like, oh, what does that statement mean? Like, what is the mystery behind it? Like, because like based on what I've seen, like I think Rei's full of shit.
Rei is absolutely the favorite.
Yeah, totally. Like fucking Gendo ain't gonna fucking burn his hands opening up Shinji's escape pod, or unit pod or whatever.
So Ira, are you saying like why is Rei saying she's not the favorite, even though she clearly is?
Yeah. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I feel like I don't want to answer that question in this point of time.
All right.
I do have thoughts on that, but I feel like now is not the time to answer that question.
Very well.
I'll just fucking sit here and pretend I'm not absorbed like 70% of Evangelions.
I will say this. I mean, is it possible she just doesn't understand what that really means?
I don't know. I think she's emotionally deadened, but I don't think she's stupid.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I could also just say maybe there's the possibility that she's not. But that's all I will say. That's all I will say about that. Okay, so where do we leave off? Yes, so
they get into
they prep the Evas. The kids show up. The kids get in. We get one more great bit where they're like, "You're gonna have to rip the restraints off yourself with the Evangelions."
So good.
Ritsuko, like, they go through the whole, like, Ava's launch, and then we cut immediately to them just crawling through another vent.
Yes. Or, like, you have the bit where, like, to even launch them, like, you have a dude, like, just, like, chopping the hydraulic cables with an axe to, like, to cut the connection, basically.
Right. Now, so they launch, and I don't know, is this... I couldn't tell. Well, obviously, since Misato is in the elevator, she can't run this operation right now. Did they just not have communications, or does Gendo just not want to have anything to do with the actual battle? Because basically, the kids are left to their own devices once they get out.
I think the communications are down.
So they just leave the kids to their own devices.
What else are you gonna do?
Out. They're
and Asuka takes charge, and this time she kind of figures it out. Yes,
this is Asuka's first and so far only moment of displaying something resembling like tactical acumen and leadership qualities that are befitting of someone of her supposed stature.
Any level of contriteness at all.
Yes. So they have to get up basically this giant tube, but the angel...
Yes, because the angel keeps fucking crying acid on them.
So they try to like crab walk up the tube, but the angel is crying acid down the tube, so they can't just do that. So Asuka comes up with the plan to have, basically she's gonna block the acid while Shinji waits. Well, Ray drops down to the bottom because they dropped their gun, which I guess they only have one gun. And they dropped. Ray drops down, grabs the gun, throws up to Shinji while Asuka is blocking the acid, and then she moves so that Shinji can shoot the angel.
And what is seemingly the first and only time in this show that the fucking gun is demonstrated to do anything useful.
Like, correct me if I'm wrong, Jel, but I believe I told G, because I believe that this is the only time in the entire show where the like regular Eva guns do anything.
Probably. They did specifically say that part of Asuka's job was neutralizing the AT field, right? I mean, that's still that does then beg the question: why don't they always just neutralize the AT field?
Yes, why don't you always neutralize the fucking AT field?
I think they do, and it just never fucking works.
So
no, we always because apparently the proper way to dispose of these fucking horrible creatures from another dimension is to always walk fucking 2 feet away from them and then
apart with your bare hands.
Shove our hands in there to pull it apart, But apparently you could do it from a distance.
Stab it with a box cutter, right? Like, real
But obviously this is for the sake of drama, but there's a part of me that is now severely side-eyeing like Nerve's like logistics and budget capability, because apparently they have the money and resources to constantly repair these bespoke one-off giant robots, but they don't have the budget to give all 3 of them guns. No, apparently we can only afford 1 gun. But we can afford to repair these 3 robots repeatedly.
Hey man, ammo is expensive, I'm sure. But
like, don't worry, we went to fucking Evangelion Office Max. We have a box full of progressive box cutters, but we have only 1 fucking gun. So
well, that makes it so much more dramatic, right?
Of course it does.
Anyway, so they succeed in defeating the angel. We get one more kind of post-fight scene with the kids looking out at the dark city.
These kids need to chill out.
These kids are trying too hard. These kids are trying way too hard. Like fucking laying there, staring up the stars. These fucking, these 14-year-olds who, they've seen what the world's really like, man. And kind of we're asking the real questions about like, why are we here, man?
Might as well just be fucking patching around a bong.
Yeah, like it is the most fucking like I love these 3 episodes, but there's like this conversation and then a conversation Gendo has with Fuyutsuki in episode 12 that had me fucking rolling my eyes into the back of my skull. Like like I get it. Like again, if this was your first fucking anime back in 1996 or whatever, like I'm sure all of this was like, oh, very heady. But like, I'm just like, y'all are kids. Like fucking, I don't know, man. Fucking talk about something else. Like,
I do kind of like the scene just as like the first time really those three have hung out and not been arguing.
Right.
I guess like
I mean, this was the first operation where the three of them worked together, right? And then yes,
yeah. I guess we put it like that. Yeah,
all three of them have kind of. I'm hesitant to say bonded yet, but they're they're a team, at least on a professional level at this point. But yeah, so that wraps up the episode 11, which brings us into episode 12 with one of my personal favorite episode titles of all time. She said, "Don't make others suffer for your personal hatred," or
yes, or as I said, the most megalobox ass sounding title I've heard in this show.
Alternatively, "The Value of Miracle" is less interesting as a title.
Shout out to megalobox titles.
Yes, well, give out that shout out again. I think we did that last podcast.
Yes, I know, but
there'll be a couple other opportunities.
You know what? Just like Azura's Wrath, Megalobox also deserves a shout out anytime it's mentioned. So Megalobox, what an anime!
Anyway, this episode kicks off with a flashback to
yes. A bit more serious this time.
Second Impact.
Yes. So we see the events of Second Impact, and apparently Masato was there.
Yes, things don't look great here at Second Impact Central. People are melting. The sky is red.
There's an Aphra in the back.
So
things are not looking great for Masato here.
Yes,
I do like what the like capsule he puts her in looks like like a less developed version of the entry plug.
Oh yeah, totally. No,
I did. Design lineage in universe.
Yes, I definitely love that aspect of it. Yes, that kind of like.
And they do keep saying that inside the entry plug is basically the safest place you could possibly be, which would explain how Masato would survive a event like that. But yeah, we kind of get a cut to that, and then cutting back to Masato in present day with the scar again, so we kind of know where the scar is coming from at this point. And
all right,
pretty serious intro, which kind of takes a lighter turn. We get into Masato's been promoted, which I realized. I realized last episode I instinctively actually called her Major Katsuragi, even though she was still a captain at that point. But she's now officially a major.
Yes, she has been promoted for her valorous actions of being stuck in an elevator.
of wrangling children. I mean, everybody who has to handle 3 14-year-olds deserves to be
probably deserves.
That was funny timing because you figure they would have done that like after Operation Yashima or something, right? But
I mean, I think that's more believable, right? It probably took some time and paperwork to get that promotion down the line, but like I do love that it arrives after the episode where arguably
the one episode where she doesn't do anything and she's stuck in an elevators, the one she gets promoted from.
Yes, so as a result, they want to celebrate her promotion. So Kensuke and Toji decide we're gonna throw a party for Major Katsuragi, and we're gonna invite. I guess some other people.
Well, before we get to that, we do get a scene with some of the harmonics testing, and we kind of get a little
right.
I feel like this doesn't actually happen all that often in the show, like sync tests, but also I feel like it is an iconic set in the show.
Well, it feels like something that happens all the time. We just don't see it on camera, right?
Right.
But they kind of try to establish the power levels here. That Asuka is still the most in sync pilot, but Shinji's catching up with his natural abilities, which of course is going to piss off Asuka.
Right.
His entry plug can go deeper than the other two,
which leads to for the 5th time in my show notes, me writing down Asuka. What is your problem? fucking chill out. Like this is some fucking Bakugo tier behavior right now. Like, no, I say this because this is literally echoing a conversation, or I guess maybe My Hero Academia is literally echoing this conversation in Evangelion, where like, there's literally a bit where All Might is like, chill out, Bakugo, like, you started out at level 100 and Deku's at level 1. Of course it's going to be impressive when he jumps ahead 10 levels compared to you. And it's just like, again, same thing to Asuka, like, chill out, you're still the top dog, just like fucking...
Right. Quit yelling at Shinji for doing okay.
Like what would you do? What would you do if the results came back and they said, actually, Shinji's doing real fucking bad. He's awful at piloting Eva. He's fucking trash at it. Like, that Asuka would still berate him for it. She would just fucking change her tone and be like, Shinji, can't you fucking get it together like me? Like,
yeah,
fucking...
I mean, that is a conversation they have in the on their way home after the testing, right? With
yeah, like, what the fuck do you want? Like, what would make you happy? Apparently, fucking nothing.
When Misato's driving Shinji home, and Misato and Shinji's like, right. I don't know what I did wrong. Why is she always mad at me? And Misato's like, it's because you care what people think too much. And then
Misato kind of lays into him.
Yeah.
Like, jeez.
I feel like in a lot of ways, this is maybe, I think Masato is basically pointing out like what is, we haven't really examined it lately because Shinji has kind of been in a better place these days. But Masato is basically pointing out that, like, at his core, like, yes, Shinji is like in a healthier place mentally and emotionally these days, but like his core character still stems from this crippling, like,
people pleaser
desire to like need people's approval, or not even approval, but just like he bases his entire personality based on other people's expectations of him.
Okay, going back to the question of why is Asuka always picking on Shinji, I mean, is it because he's the only one that actually reacts? Like, that it like actually impacts? Like, everyone else is like, whatever, Asuka, and he's the one that's actually like, I don't know, just throw that out there. But
No, I think that's a good point. Like, fucking, I notice that every single time Asuka fucking opens her mouth, like, nobody ever steps in to defend Shinji. Like, nobody ever even calls Asuka out on her shit. Like, I don't know. Is this just like a very like Japanese cultural thing? I feel like if you were in America and like some person was just like constantly like some person in your like overall friends circle, right? Like, maybe not even a friend, but like somebody that you always hang out with, or somebody you always like is there when you were getting like, dinner at like the dorm cafeteria. Like, if that person was always fucking talking shit 24/7, I feel like somebody would be like, cool, you don't even have to like call Asuka out. You don't even be like, Asuka, why don't you just fucking chill out and shut the fuck up? I feel like it seems weird that nobody is even just like, hey, like,
yeah, so I mean,
could you cool it? Or like Shinji doesn't deserve your bullshit. Like Shinji deserves a lot of bullshit, but he doesn't deserve your bullshit. I mean, maybe
it is because he's the only one that's actually acknowledges her, if you think about it. Like, everybody else is just...
Right. And I guess I wonder if that's just it's just a point of like he's the only one that cares. Like, everybody else fucking has already internalized that Asuka's like
they
fucking
just filter it out.
And, yes, they've already mentally filtered it out. Like, when she opens her mouth, they don't even comprehend the words.
You hear the Charlie Brown noises in the background.
Yeah. God. Look forward to my sequel fanfic, Peanuts Croft Neon Genesis Evangelion. Where every fucking all Shinji wants to do is kick that goddamn football.
Oh, that
Asuka just keeps yanking it away.
Definitely adds up.
Exactly.
Oh yeah, that's.
It's all starting to make sense.
Snoopy is just Unit 01.
I was gonna say Snoopy just the penguin, like Pen. Like,
yeah, I guess.
That might be a better metaphor than the Willy Wonka.
Linus just Ray.
That is an interesting take. Yes. Take there. Yes.
I mean, they're both religiously charged.
Anyway, so yeah, after the testing, they head back to party, as we mentioned, and
yes, where fucking
everybody shows up, and Shinji is like, I don't like being around this many people. It's loud. I'm an introvert.
Right, like Shinji is literally that one fucking like copy pasta that is like the music is too loud, my feet hurts. I wish I was home. Oh wait, I am home. This sucks.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting with the car ride home and then leading into this, because Misato is not really having a great time either. She's
no. Misato doesn't really
this
care
whole
for
episode kind of like weirdly tensive,
and they're kind of like commiserating on the sidelines during the party of like, I'm not really having much fun either, but
yeah. But I mean, I think they kind of, some of this is explained by the end of this episode that like emotionally it kind of makes sense that Misato doesn't really care, because like she kind of states during the party that like her motivation for being at Nerve was never personal ambition. Like the rank she has doesn't really matter, because like that's never right. That's never been why she's here. So like at the end of the day, the rank is just a means to an end. It's just another title that like is a tool to her true goals.
She says she's like she's happy about it, but it's not important, right? Like, yeah,
right, exactly, yeah. Though you think with her promotion she would get a pay raise, but I guess we'll get into that later.
So we cut away from the party to see Gendo is away at the South Pole.
Both Gendo and Fuyutsuki are at the South Pole.
Turns out that Gendo has stolen Shinji's bong from last episode, because Gendo Fuyutsuki
how does Shinji smoke from a bong that's the whole size of an aircraft carrier?
Yeah. Right, they're obviously transporting something that, again, I'll just pretend I don't know what that is. To or from the South Pole, where Gendo and Fuyutsuki have the most fucking extra conversation about the angels and the nature of their mission.
These are the conversations that made every 14-year-old think that Evangelion was the deepest show they'd ever seen.
Yeah, like this is what I mean. Like I think like what I like sometimes give shit to Ava's like reputation and the legacy it established is like, regardless, because I think at this point, like I think people get that like I think that Ava the show itself is quite good, but I think my fucking antagonistic relationship with the post-Ava like mecha genre is it feels like every fucking anime director and writer in the world watched Evangelion and like specifically like fucking watched this conversation between Gendo and Fuyutsuki in episode 12 and came away with the conclusion, oh, this is what mecha anime should be from now on, is this specific conversation. Like, oh, our mecha anime should just be this conversation stretched out over 26 episodes, like, from now on. Like, this is what mecha anime is. And, like...
Yeah.
Maybe that is where my problem comes
there's
from.
Like, the genuine character depth and stuff in the show, but then you have the pseudo-religious, like, pontificating...
Yeah. We'll get into this more when we get deeper into the series, but... yes. My take in 2019 is that because there's been I think the majority of people have come to realize that a lot of these like biblical references and like because in this scene in this scene Gendo's talking about mankind being cleansed from the original sin and all that stuff like that, like as a
truly
as a teenager.
Oh my god, that line fucking
and Fuyutsuki's like, well, I think a little sin is good or whatever, but the as a teenager I was eating that stuff up. I think most of the Ava quote unquote discourse has come to realize that a lot of that doesn't really mean anything, but
I don't know, man. I feel like even in 2019, you still get some real fucking eye rolling.
I'm sure they're out there, but I feel like the majority of people have grown up and realized that that's not the case. I think
motherfucker, I don't mean to invoke current events, but we were talking about a fan base for whom the most popular anime is like fucking Shield Hero or Goblin Slayer. I think you severely You are severely overestimating the anime discourse's ability to like meaningfully interact with these kind of
those
narrative
people
elements.
haven't even watched Evangelion, and we'll see what happens when it hits Netflix. But
yeah, they probably haven't watched Evangelion. They just look at the Ray porn or whatever.
But
pretend they
I think what my closing argument is going to be that no, Evangelion is not deep in the way we thought it was, but I think there is still depth to it, which I think there will be.
No, of course.
I think that depth is in the visual design and the character interactions and the writing.
Yeah, I think that depth is undoubtedly
it's
here.
Just not
it's like Azero said, like it's just found in the places that are not as.
It's not the places
explicit.
we thought it was when I was 16 or whatever when I watched it. So
yes.
So yeah, we can shelve all the talk about original sin and whatnot, and come back to.
I will say.
Go ahead, G.
I will say real quickly, I do actually love the art direction for the South Pole during this bit. Like, motherfucker, the South Pole has seen some better days in the world of Evangelion. It's really shit. Well, it's not just like the Red Sea, but it's like the fucking like spires of ice just sticking out that like really lend like this truly like apocalyptic vision of it's one thing if like Second Impact is just a big ass crater, which I mean it still kind of is.
I mean it is like the North Pole's all ice, but the South Pole's a continent.
Yes. Like so it truly it doesn't like. A weaker and lesser anime would have gone into explicit detail. Maybe it still does later down the line, but of exactly what Second Impact does to the world. But the way they communicated with just like this is what the South Pole looks like now, I think does such an amazing job of like communicating like the kind of like deeply apocalyptic scars that event has.
It wasn't just a big explosion. This is just like evil.
No,
it's menacing.
Yes, yes, yeah. That's a good way to put it, Jill. Like something truly evil has occurred here. Like it's because it's easy to imagine. Oh, like it's like a big meteor strike, right? Big crater, melted oceans.
That's cover up. So
right, but like but like which could still be effective. Like to in many ways. Like I think that like Evangelion is kind of working off a similar playbook as shows like, for example, the original Mobile Suit Gundam did, where like for its time in 1979, like all it had to do to like indicate how truly like awful the world was in the original Mobile Suit Gundam was show you a map of Australia where a giant fucking circle-shaped hole is missing from it. And that's all you need to communicate, something deeply, like, terrible has happened here. But I think what Ava does is kind of take that to the next level with, like, showing, like, what does ground zero of such an event look like.
It's clearly more than just, like, a conventional explosion happened. There's, like, some weird stuff going on here, but...
Yes, like, it no longer looks like Earth.
So, we'll put that on the table for now and head on back...
All the commanders are away, the angels will play, and
as they are wont to do.
So the 10th angel appears. This one is like some kind of spaceship or something. I don't know.
It's just like orbitally bombarding the planet, like just dropping pieces of itself.
With Gendo away, Misato is now the highest ranking NERV official, and so it's time for Major Katsuragi to take command of this operation. She
as if she has already done that,
but now she doesn't have to get anybody's permission. I guess I don't know, but she guesses.
Right, I mean, she had to get permission for Operation Yashima.
Yeah, she had to ask
that is true. Yes,
for that one. But yes,
but now she's just shooting from the hip now, just like fuck it, 0.0001%.
Yes, that kind of becomes important with her plan here. So she kind of guesses that the Angel is going to drop down onto NERV headquarters, drop itself down and destroy it. So the Magi computer is trying to calculate where it's going to be, but it gets basically jammed before it can finish the calculation. So we get this kind of funny visual of, all right, where's it going to drop? And then they just show this big red area that's basically like the entire city.
Right, and Misato, again, bless Misato, I really love her as a character, but bless Misato that her fucking daring fucking plan to save humanity is basically fucking
to catch it.
Just... Yes. It's basically just a variation of the plot of that one episode of Fooly Cooley, where okay, the ball is gonna land here, so you three just stand right underneath it and try to catch it, which is the most fucking just
and
like I have expected, like that fucking episode of Fooly Cooley, that they were just gonna start breaking out like fucking Ava-sized baseball bats or something.
I mean,
Just an Ava-sized catcher's mitt.
If Gunbuster had a big baseball bat, then I'm sure the Avas do too.
Yes, exactly. Just fucking, we don't have money to make them guns, but here we have a bunch of other dumbass Ava unit-sized bullshit lying around.
Yeah, so Misato comes up with this plan, and we kind of cut away to this scene with her and Ritsuko in the bathroom, and on their way out, Ritsuko's basically like, you're we have the less than 100,000th of a percent chance of it succeeding. You're just throwing away the Avas basically for your own personal grudge or whatever. Which
right,
yeah, she says, "Don't make others suffer
yes,
for your personal."
I was going to
hatred.
ask, does this count as a title drop, even though she doesn't explicitly say the words?
I think, no, but I think thematically, that's exactly that's kind of the whole theme of this episode, right? Is in this episode and in this moment, Misato's very dogmatic drive to destroy the angels is portrayed as a heroic thing. But I think we are beginning to see the cracks in her character, her obsession with destroying the angels, and what that and how that pushes her towards making certain choices and decisions. We have this bit here where Misato's just after this conversation, she basically explains this plan to the kids, and she's like, "Hey, if you survive, I'll treat you out. I'll take you out for dinner. We'll get steak or something."
They keep asking for details of the operation, and her answers are all
they're like, "What? What are the?" They're
good luck.
They're like,
Good
"What
job,
did the computer say?" And she's like, "Well, I can't tell you or whatever. All I can tell you is
there's an aspect of this that
where we predicted. Too bad then.
Right, there's an aspect of this where Misato she is, again, she's literally shooting from the hip. This plan is not that well, even by Misato daring plan standards, this is a notably poorly thought out one. At least her mission to stop fucking Jet Alone had some or Operation Yashima, there was a foundation of a logic there. But here she's just literally I don't know, fucking play this out like a little league game, fucking get out in the outfield and try to catch it.
To what basis are you picking the spots for them to? And she's like, "It's my women's intuition." This is all a completely and they want you to be clear that this is an emotional decision, right? It's not based on logic or
totally
sound, reasoning here.
Right.
Even the kids don't want to have it.
Even the kids
she's like, "I'll treat you to steak dinner," and they're just like, "Yay, thanks."
Well, we did get the funny bit where after she leaves, Asuka's the second impact generation is so cheap, which
fucking millennials.
I don't think I brought this up yet, but I did do the math because Misato, I think, is supposed to be 29, and it's 2015, so she is definitely she actually is a millennial.
Oh God.
Oh, does that make the fucking Ava kids the Gen whatever is after that? I literally don't even know their name.
So Misato's literally a millennial here, but in this case we're calling them the second impact generation. But I mean, of course, that's just the world building way of saying they did not have any money back then because everyone was dying.
No, I mean, yes. Go back to the episode 10 conversation where Misato's back in my day, we didn't have school trips. I'm not even sure schools existed back then.
Extinction event.
Right, I'm not even sure society as we know it existed back in my day.
So kind of a little nod to that here was just pretty funny. But we do see Misato's actual plan when they draw it up on the screen, which I was calling the zone defense plan, which if you've ever seen that zone defense in football or whatever drawn out, it's basically you stand in this area, and if anything comes here, you stop it.
Right.
John Madden to the Nerve HQ.
Yes, it's freaking John. That's my next fanfic is John Madden's Neon Genesis Evangelion 2019.
good fan
look
fiction
forward to
material
that.
out of this episode, but yes. So he basically just has them spaced out evenly across the city, and whoever sees it first catches the angel.
Yes, they're gonna finally put these good ass Jordans that these Ava units are wearing to good use.
Yes. So kind of in preparation for as the kids are heading out for the operation, we get a couple of more things to go full circle with. We're still asking about, Shinji is still. We're calling back to Shinji wondering why he pilots the Evangelion. So he asks Asuka why she does it. And we kind of already know Asuka's answer, right? For her, she wants everybody to see how amazing she is and her own personal glory.
Yes, a desperate,
she requires the attention to
desperate
which she makes really validation. No, like she does not try to hide that. She answers. That's exactly what she says.
Right. Well,
I mean, the way she phrases it is like, I'm great and everyone else needs to know how great I am, rather than, as opposed to, if I do not get validation, I will curl up into a ball and die.
Well, she doesn't do the actual psychoanalysis of it or whatever,
But on the other hand, though, I do appreciate that, she's like, well, what is your motivation? And Shinji's like, dog, I got no fucking clue. I have no fucking clue why I'm in this giant robot.
That is like the first time we actually asked Shinji back, right? Like, that's, so.
Yeah. And I mean, it's the one time where, like, again, Asuka's abrasive as hell, but I can at least appreciate her, like, pointing out that, like, actually, yes, Shinji's, like, fucking flimsy to non-existent reasoning for piloting the Ava, like, is the foundations of a problem we could get into down the line. So.
Right.
Yes.
We also get a bit with Misato kind of explaining more explicitly, in case we didn't piece together her motivation in fighting the angels. She was talking to Shinji at that point, right?
Yes. They have a flashback to, like, after the party or something, and
she starts describing her relationship with her father, which sounds kind of similar to Shinji's relationship with Gendo.
Right, I think.
And there's a very deliberate parallel here.
Yes. Misato Sr. is very much portrayed as a Gendo Akari type person, like, didn't care about family, didn't care about anything but his work, was just, like, driven to, the accomplishment of whatever his great task at hand was, at the expense of all personal relationships.
But he saved her in the end, and now she doesn't know how to feel about this.
And I think that's tying back to my point before, and we'll get a little bit more to at the end here with, maybe saying that they're trying to rehabilitate Gendo is a little too much, but I think they are trying to make it more of or less of a black and white, good, bad thing.
Sure.
I mean, I suppose, like, for the sake of narrative, that is probably a good thing. Like, as much as I enjoy joking about fucking how Gendo is literally the worst, like, parental figure I've ever seen in an anime, like, it's something, for a show like Evangelion, which does trade so much in these kind of highly believable relationships, it does stretch the imagination a little bit how fucking callous Gendo is. Again, I would definitely hate if this show started to, like, be like, oh, actually, like, here's Gendo's tragic backstory that is supposed to justify and validate every action he's made in this show. But, like, again, not even towards Shinji. I do appreciate at least trying to hint at, like, there is more to his character than just his, like, or there is more to his character, even if his character is just his single-minded drive to, like, destroy the angels. That there is more facets to even that.
There is a level of humanity to him buried in there somewhere, which makes it more interesting than if he was just a cartoon, cackling evil villain up in his
totally
command center or whatever. So yeah, I mean, I think that's what they're going for. I'm just always a little wary of, like, he's
of rehabilitating abusive characters, of course. Like, because I think a lot of fiction, I don't think we need to get into it in this podcast, but, like, I think a lot of fiction, especially in anime, is dreadfully guilty of, like, rehabilitating characters who do and show, like, extremely abusive and like problematic behavior. I think this happens way too often in fiction, where like characters who commit actions ranging from like murder and abuse to sexual assault are like retroactively validated because their mom was mean to them as a child or something, or they were bullied as a kid.
Does love them or whatever.
Right, like I beat my children, but that's because actually deep down I truly loved them, which is like
I just wanted to make them strong.
Right, it's like such a fucking bullshit trope, and I think a lot of fiction is very guilty of this.
I just want to make them strong. Just made me think of Hanebado, if you remember G.
Oh boy, like Hanebato's a perfect example.
What's her name's mom worse than Gendo Ikari?
Oh, that's tough.
She was pretty bad.
Man, now that's my next fanfic is Hanebado cross Neon Genesis Evangelion, where Gendo Ikari has to coach a badminton team, and Ayano's mother is tasked with leading Nerve's fight against the Angel Menace.
I could not remember any of the characters' names in that show at this point, but yes.
I mean, I said Ayano's mom, so that tells you how much I actually remember. But just see who does a better / worse job at the others. That the others' task.
Somewhat amusing, but there's a long history of bad anime parenting in anime for sure. So. And
yes,
yeah. But meanwhile, the angels falling from the sky.
So the kids get out there in their zone defense, and the angels falling from the sky as predicted. I guess it ends up being closest to Shinji, so he runs in to catch it.
Yeah. We get a cool bit here where we get to see the Evas fucking moving hella fast, like
jumping off cliffs and
great bit of animation here just to like shout it out. Like, speed is one of those things that is actually surprisingly difficult to communicate in animation, because at the end of the day, like what you are looking at in animation is, a bunch of still images, moving, flashing very quickly across the screen. So like portraying speed like in a believable and like understandable way is something that many animators, even to this day, often struggle with. And I think that they do an amazing job with it here. I think a lot of it is, in fact, due to like Ava's constant commitment to like portraying the physicality of the Ava units. Like, despite their like, unorthodox designs, they never like. There is a gravity to the way these robots move.
You have them like cracking the ground underneath them, or
or just like
over the power lines, and they're just whipping everywhere.
Yeah, stuff like that. It's really impressive, and like so even if like the actual quote unquote like fight in this episode is not really anything that like special, the way it's portrayed is done just super impressive.
It does look cool.
I really like. Like kind of restating here, I just really like how as they all are running, it keeps cutting between all three of them. Like if that like Unit 1 jumps, but then the landing is Unit 2.
It's a really well done sequence.
The landing is Unit 0.
This is probably the nicest looking sequence this show has done since episode 9. With the 62 seconds.
Yep. So Shinji catches the angel and holds it as best he can until Rei and Asuka show up to help him, and they're
and we get yet another first and maybe only in this show so far, where Rei is the one who
she gets to get a kill,
whips out the knife,
and finally.
It's the only time we see, like as you said, I think it's the only time we see Unit 0's progressive knife ever.
Probably. Definitely up to now. I'm trying to think of later, but
she has not done much in this show up till now. I guarantee that much.
Yeah, we kind of get the fun visual of like ripping the AT field open with their bare hands, and then
because we forgot our guns.
Well, it's hard
again,
to use
apparently.
a gun when you're also trying to hold the thing up, I guess. But so they
of course
they kill the angel, and in true Japanese fashion, Misato takes responsibility for her actions for the light amount of damage done to Unit 1 in Gendo's absence, and but Gendo Gendo's surprise in a surprise move calls over to what he refers to as the pilot of Unit 1.
Yes, put my worthless son on the phone. I wish to speak to him.
Please put the pilot of Unit 1 on and tells him.
What a fucking dick. Despite what you said, Jill, and yes, even though what he says here maybe is supposed to be him showing a softer side, he's also still doing it in the most dickish way possible. Like, let's not misunderstand.
And this is where this is like in a form part of the abuse, right? Because like he tells Shinji good work. And that's the kind of thing that makes, when we see later, and that's the kind of thing that makes Shinji think maybe I can change him, maybe he'll come to my parent teacher conference, right?
Yeah, I was literally joking to Iro. I was like, oh, good, it's the scheduled monthly slightly less hurtful remark from Gendo to string Shinji along in this fucking absurd mission
further the
he's
emotional
been set
damage.
Upon.
Which we kind of see when we see the impact in the next scene, which for one, it's pretty good because the kids were giving Misato a hard time about having to empty her piggy bank for this big dinner. And, they all decide, let's just go to the cheap ramen stand.
Right. One of Asuka's few benevolent actions of let's get ramen because that way Misato doesn't have to pay a lot of money. And also that means Rei can come with us.
Yes, because Rei mentions earlier in this episode that she doesn't like meat.
Yes.
But, again, leading me to ask, is this how NERV manages to afford all those box cutters? Is that they just don't pay their staff for shit? Because, I feel like a major is a pretty high rank in a military system. Probably should get paid pretty decently
Misato
at that point.
Not getting paid, or should she blow all her money on the sports car?
That's a good point. Misato's probably the living embodiment of that meme that is
yes,
my rent is $700.
Right.
My food is $200. My car is $10,000, and my beer expenses are $20,000 a month. Please help me. Please help me.
How much does she
myself,
just pay for electricity to keep Pen alive? I mean, there's a lot of irresponsible spending going on there, but
that's true.
Anyway, so we kind of end out here in this ramen stand scene, which okay, this is the most important Platinum Notes reference I saw so far.
I saw this in the show notes, and I was curious about what this was.
Yeah, I'm very curious what this is about.
So when they're all ordering their ramen, Rei orders, I think, garlic ramen or something. But in the script,
yes,
she was supposed to order seaweed ramen. And the Platinum Notes thought it was important enough to tell us that this was an ad-lib that the actress chose to do in the show. So that is the level of detail we're bringing to you here on Neon Genesis Evanglorio.
Right. Sure. Whatever, dude.
Yes.
Very important.
But I mean, of course, that was just the callback to her not eating meat. But anyway, we kind of close out,
Is that really it?
Yes.
Is that it? That's the most fun. All right.
I love it.
I thought this would generally be something that added.
No. I was about to flip a coin that this note was either going to be something fucking major and revealing about the characters, or the most fucking one-off, half-assed show note.
This does. Okay, hold on. I need to fucking investigate now, but
you got to investigate now, do you? What fucking deep cut is this one related to?
No.
Turns out another role that Rei VA voiced in some obscure Japanese RPG also liked garlic ramen.
No, what it is recently, earlier this year, or maybe it was last year.
Was Rei used to promote a garlic ramen?
There's a robot show called Transforming Shinkansen Robot Shinkalion.
Yes,
that had the Evangelion crossover episode,
the Eva episode. I remember
and I think they order ramen at the end of that episode, And so I think
one of them order garlic ramen.
I think Ray does the same order there. I did not realize that was a specific reference at the time.
Well, there you go. I said it was important, right?
Shout out to Shinkalion.
No, maybe not. I don't.
Yeah, you're right.
I don't think Shinkalion gets to sit there with Azura's Wrath and Megalobox. Maybe that's just my personal editorializing there. But yeah, I guess yeah.
Well, we do end with to finally bring the whole thing full circle. Shinji talking about finding why he thinks he pilots the Evangelion, which is for basically his dad's approval, which is sad. But
sure.
Again, we kind of went into detail as to all that already, but that is the conclusion he's arrived at, and kind of a fitting way, I guess, to wrap up this this arc, this stretch of episodes, kind of bringing that all full circle.
Yes, but yeah, with that was another solid 3 episodes, I'd say. Of
basically at the halfway point.
If you subtract the two, because there's 26 episodes, and if you subtract the 2 recaps, it's basically 24 episodes. So this is basically the halfway point. So I don't know, G, if you want to, this being your first watch, what are your thoughts so far? If you want to give any general impressions at the moment.
Sure. I've definitely enjoyed these 3 episodes. I think 10 was a little weak, not bad, of course, but I think 10 has definitely felt like the most conventional ass, mecha monster of the week episode. Yes, filler, but which I think I'm actually kind of glad that episode exists, because I kind of want to use that episode as proof to contrast between episodes 9 and 11, as I've been saying that I've been really enjoying this stretch of Eva specifically, because it is a more, it has been kind of a more conventional mecha anime show. But I definitely don't want to give the impression that, that I'm so easily pleased that it being just more conventional is good enough. I'd say I've been enjoying these episodes because, yes, have they been, more conventional mecha anime, but also have they been more conventional, but also very well executed, I think is the key here. But especially episodes 11 and 12, where, again, as you said, Jill, I think that maybe tonally they're beginning to get more introspective and self-serious again, but I do think that maybe, especially watching in such a short span of time, I really do think there's a very notable contrast between the episodes we're watching now and the first 3-4 episodes of the show. There's a very distinct change in tone and vibe that I think, for me personally, has worked out for the better. Just it has given the show a more likable identity, I think. And I think it hasn't necessarily lost any of the things that made it good to begin with. If you guys go back to the first couple of podcasts and the things I was praising, the things I specifically was praising, those things are all still here in these episodes. The attention to detail, the physicality, the examination of the human cost of the giant robot genre. I think that all of those things are still here, even with the tone shift. And as a result, I've definitely been enjoying this stretch of episodes. I didn't mention it. I'll bring it up one more time, because I did mention it last podcast when I feel like this is actually the more relevant podcast to bring it up in. But one more time, episodes 9 through 12 were directed by Seiji Mizushima, who would go on to direct Daiguard. And I think that I'm not going to go into that again, because I kind of already went into that last time. But it is very interesting to see a lot of that lineage in Evangelion, or that Evangelion would go on to inspire, because as much as I was talking about how I think most mecha creators or writers, took all the wrong lessons from Evangelion, especially, specifically personified in Gendo and Fuyutsuki's conversation in episode 12, where I feel every fucking hack job writer in the anime industry looked at that conversation and assumed, oh, that's what mecha anime should be from now on. I think Seiji Mitsushima showcased his ability to tread these kind of topics and then display his ability to continue handling them in later works. At least Dygard. The other notable mecha anime he directed is Gundam 00, which doesn't really have as much of that. Like, at most, the best that could be said about Gundam 00 is like it is a Gundam show that is actually like willing to engage with like how war is as much geopolitics as it is ideological. But I wouldn't even necessarily say that's a major theme of Evangelion. So I don't want to necessarily like say, oh, that's the big takeaway from that. But
Gundam's kind of its own weird thing.
Like, it is its own weird thing with its own weird conventions, for sure. But it is interesting, though, to kind of see these episodes in a vacuum and kind of see what they go on to inspire. And, again, I don't even think this is that hot of a take, to say that, like, it is interesting to see how these would go on to inspire Dygard, which I think to this day is still maybe one of the only mecha anime that I think had an interesting response to Evangelion. So
okay, but have you heard of the King of Braves, Gao Gai Gar?
I have to admit, I haven't done a lot of research on if there is actually any staff lineage between Ava and Gao Gai Gar. Like, I know you're joking, bro, but like the fascinating thing for me, as a mecha fan, has been looking at an Evangelion, seeing who worked on Evangelion. Like both, what did they work on prior to Ava? For example, like Tsurumaki having a major role in Pat Labor, versus people like Seiji Mitsushima, like what did they go on to take from Evangelion? And I think both sides of that spectrum have both interesting and maybe disappointing like elements to that story, of like what did Eva draw from and what did it go on to inspire, both good and ill. And that has been, for me, like on an academic level, kind of an interesting.
It's only going to get sure. It's only going to get more interesting as we hit the back half here, for sure.
Right. I mean, I think my fear, of course, is as we get, into the back half of Eva, where we get back into like stuff I'm familiar with through cultural osmosis, we are going to get back into those Gendo Fuyutsuki conversations, which, I'm not really looking forward to that, if that is what, the back half of Evangelion represents.
Ira, how are you? How are you feeling on the rewatch here at the halfway point?
It's still pretty good. I don't know. I'm enjoying it, and I like seeing the more subtle character stuff that maybe I knew about but didn't necessarily catch before.
Yeah, and I think G's kind of talked about the conventional mecha end of it. I don't want to necessarily discount that part of it either, as far as like the character work, which, even though it can be a bit on the nose sometimes, I think there are some good human moments and themes that they're working on, and some of the relation. I always particularly like Misato and Shinji's relationship, which I think we saw some good stuff in the last two episodes here.
Yeah,
kind of drawing their parallels and why they're somewhat kindred spirits at this point, right? And I think I've noticed again, going back to my take on this rewatch and kind of my different opinion, I think, of Shinji in 2019 than in 1999, and kind of seeing his character in a more sympathetic light and appreciating things like his relationship with Masato more, and not just being mad that he's got no backbone or whatever.
Yeah. I've seen the other characters as well, because I feel like when I first watched the show, a lot of my mental energy was spent on Shinji in particular. But now, seeing, like, as you said, like Misato or Asuka, and how their personalities,
I think a lot of
distinguish themselves.
If there are millennials or younger watching Netflix or watching for the first time on Netflix, they're probably going to relate to Misato in some capacity. But but yeah, I'm definitely appreciating some of that stuff more, and I think we're talking about this first half kind of being more conventional mecha anime, but it does. I think those elements do help the show have its own unique personality. Like you're watching it, you're watching Evangelion,
totally,
right? Like
yes.
there's a mood to it that no matter what's happening, whether they're somehow making a joke out of Gendo, or they're talking about original sin, or like having some other conversation about whatever, it always feels like Evangelion, right?
I think. Yeah, I think that part is core to its identity. Like I think everybody knows my feelings about the kind of person who would call who would use the words conventional mecha anime with a tone of like condescension. Like, I think everybody knows my feeling about those types of people. But when I say conventional mecha anime, I definitely do mean that in a good way. In that, like, that is an intrinsic part of this show's identity. As much as the episode 4s and such. Like, I think it kind of culminates in the kind of tapestry that is, the show's personality and what makes it, the very distinguished show it becomes, or I guess
they're using
the
kind of
in
the
retrospect.
Formula of a some classic mecha anime formulas as like the flesh and bone, and building on top of it.
Yeah, like I think you have to
tear it down in the second half.
Yay! Yeah, well, I mean, give it some time.
I'm mostly just
we will see. We will see.
Like again, there, but mostly.
Well, yes, I will always bristle at I will always bristle at the assertion that, oh man, Evangelion is the complete and total deconstruction of the mecha genre. But I despite my dislike of that assertion, I am of course curious to see, like, how this show continues to evolve. Now that
all I can say is Ideon and Devilman were big influences on Evangelion.
Yes, I mean, look, I am saving. Yes, I am saving the Ideon and Devilman like tangents for later in this podcast. Believe me, I got those loaded in the chamber. Like, I wanted to front load this podcast with the good stuff like Pat Labor and Dygard, but don't worry. Once we get to the end, like, don't worry, Ideon and Devilman will have their due in the spotlight.
I think that sets us up for a good second half. I do want to mention, before we get to our normal housekeeping, I guess this could also fall under housekeeping, but Evangelion is hitting Netflix, or scheduled to anyway, on June 21st. So this podcast is going out the 10th, and the next one will be the 24th. So by the time we get the next episode out, it will be out on Netflix. So if for some reason you've stumbled onto episode 4 of this podcast but plan on watching it on Netflix, please go back to episode 1 and let us watch along with you. But that'll be interesting to see how that's received. Part of me feels like nobody's going to care, but I don't know. I can't gauge.
Instead, you'll get everybody saying, "Oh man,
I can't really gauge, like, in 2019 how many people have and have not seen Evangelion at this point."
I mean, I think a lot of people have not seen it, but also every time I see, like, anime recs, I guess, for non-anime watching,
I always think
people,
of Evangelion as the most popular not mainstream anime of all time, if that makes sense.
I mean, we say that, but, like, let's be real.
Maybe it was 15 years ago.
Well,
Evangelion was
I mean, definitely in Japan. I guess maybe globally would be a more interesting question, but I don't have. I'm kind of losing touch on what the kids are into these days, so I don't know. But
sure, I'm not speaking. I'm not necessarily speaking to the kids here. I'm more speaking to the idea that, like, I feel like, again, this might be my own biases here, but I feel like every single time I read some, like, list of recommended anime, unless it's specifically from a mecha fan, the
I feel like any
mecha
anime
that
fan
gets
over
listed
30
is
has probably
Evangelion.
seen it, and maybe every anime fan over 25. But after that, I don't know what happens.
like to kind of mirror like Eero's oft complaints about Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. Like, I would go as far as argue that maybe Evangelion is the the Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood of mecha anime. Of like, it is a genuinely it's a genuinely good like piece of work, but also it is the only one that ever gets mentioned when the topic comes up. So, like, if somebody says, "Hey, I want to watch mecha anime," I feel like Ava is the only one that ever gets mentioned.
Or if you're talking to a certain crowd, they'll say like Robotech.
That's getting.
Well, that's a
that's getting into my territory.
Ass crowd. But, I wouldn't even. Yeah, I wouldn't even deign to. Anyway, I wouldn't even deign to deal with to begin with.
So yeah, we'll see how that goes with the Netflix release. I'll be curious to the response. But that'll do it for this episode, though. We'll catch up next time.
For sure.
So for our housekeeping, you can check out all our content at theglorioblog.com. You can like, comment, subscribe to the podcast on all our various sources. So iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, Podbean, and also on YouTube. You can check out all of our other podcasts, our podcast about currently airing anime, or I guess anime news, or whatever we want to talk about at this point. The Glorio Chat. Also, Iro and G do their podcast, Legend of the Glorio Heroes, which covers the classic whatever OVA Legend of the Galactic Heroes.
The
Wow, we actually got through it. That's the first episode of every podcast
until just now.
Yeah, I was about to point out. Yeah, I was about to point out. I think we should be praising my self-restraint here. I managed to not make a single reference to legendary 1988
Is that part of the deal of me putting the Pilgrimage to Mecha branding at the top of the show? It's you get one Legend of the Galactic Heroes reference per episode in exchange for
Oh boy.
All right. So that'll do it, and let's take care of one last thing here. Next time on Neon Genesis Evanglorio, we'll talk about Episode 13, Lilliputian Hitcher or Angel Invasion. Episode 14, Weaving a Story or Sele the Throne of Souls. Episode 15, Those Women Long for the Touch of Others' Lips and Thus Invited Their Kisses or Lies in Silence. Episode 16, Splitting of the Breast or In Sickness Unto Death and ... Oh, and maybe some fan service.